Well, but you see, this is a narrative that I've fought back against and actually really does irritate me. And that is that Republicans, conservatives, they're against minorities and African Americans and Latinos. And nothing is further from the truth, Juan. And the president in his own campaign is doing it this time.
Well, see, that's where you and I disagree. I'm inviting Ann into the conversation here, but I think that when it comes to things like voter suppression, I just think, well, you know what? It looks like now Republicans have a political strategy. We don't believe that blacks and Hispanics will vote for us, so if we can somehow keep them away from the polls, let's do it.
Nobody's trying. Wait, Juan, to get into the DNC,
there is no voter fraud.
Juan, to get into the DNC, you needed ID.
Wait, could I make a point on this? In the 2008 Minnesota Senate race, it was Al Franken versus Norm Coleman. Norm Coleman had more votes the day after the election. Hannity covered this a lot on his show because as they began to recount, it was only the heavily Democratic areas that suddenly started finding more votes for Al Franken. Already, I believe there have been 200 convictions for voter fraud coming out of that from Democratic areas. I mean, there is such a thing as voter fraud. I mean, we know about it from Daley's Chicago, and I think this is just another scam of the Democratic Party using the blacks to push an issue they really care about. They want to be able to steal votes. And so they're going to claim, and by the way, part of their argument has to be that black people are stupider than other people and can't get a photo ID, and that's why it depresses the black vote. One of the first states, it may have been the first, to push photo ID laws was Rhode Island, which is a heavily Democratic legislature, and it was specifically pushed by black Democrats in both the House and the Senate. In the House, I think her name is Anastasia Williams. She went to vote in 2006 in Rhode Island and was told she had already voted. And a few years later, she said she saw an Hispanic man vote, go to the parking lot, change clothes, go back in and vote again. And my favorite part of that story is she said she particularly noticed him because he was a hottie.
Let me just tell you, Ann, in terms of the law, in terms of efforts by Republicans, Republican attorneys general, Republican governors, go back to Karl Rove and the Bush White House and the whole firing of the special prosecutor, there have been efforts to find where is this voter fraud. Nobody's been able to find it. You offer these anecdotes, not enough to even change elections in Minnesota or Rhode Island or anywhere else. What this is about is trying to depress the turnout of likely Democratic voters. And it's not about black people somehow being condescended to by Democrats. We're talking about elderly people who don't have a driver's license. We're talking about college students who don't have anything but a college ID, don't have government-issued ID necessary to vote under the new laws. That's what we're talking about.
But I'm maintaining that it did change an election that led to Obamacare in Minnesota. I mean, to get a conviction for voter fraud, you have to prove that the person voting illegally knew he was voting illegally. There are more than 1,000 cases in Minnesota in that 2008 election of people voting who should not have voted. If that led to which it appears to have, and Franken winning an election that he did not actually win, that is the difference between Obamacare passing and Obamacare not passing.